Hi, my name is Susan Weimer and welcome to my YouTube channel. My blog is listed in the description box below. I am making a card using some stash, using W+9 Autumn Blessings stamp set and the IRONWORKS background die. I hadn't used either one of those yet and that was a shame, so I pulled them out. So I have Arches hot press watercolor paper, the W+9 IRONWORKS background die, the Autumn Blessing stamp set in its original packaging, and the companion cuts. I have my MISTI and 4 smaller paintbrushes, size 4 and down, and a paint palette from Stone Ground Paints. They pour their own paints. Everything's handmade, and they are in Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada. So I'm going to stamp this out with some antique linen distress ink. Even on hot press, you do need to stamp a couple of times because hot press still has some texture to it, not as much as cold press does. However, my mistake was when I stamped this a third time, and honestly, when I watch this, it makes me realize why no line coloring scares the living daylights out of me, is because I feel like I can't see what I'm doing. So I have here a Gemini cutting plate that I'm going to use instead of using a cutting board. I have a Gemini Junior, not a regular Gemini, but I somehow managed to buy this regular Gemini plate. So sorry about that little pause there. So I am just pulling up my reference photo. And I wanted to go with these 3 shades of color. I didn't want an all yellow sunflower bouquet, although that would have looked pretty. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I am using a paper towel to control the amount of water that I have in my brush. I am typically very, very heavy-handed with my water. So then I end up with these blobs. Oh, that's a blob from dipping my hand in the palette and picking up some yellow. And so I'm just trying to lift as much as I can up with a larger wet brush. Anyway, I'm going to move the palette now out of the way so I don't do that again. So I'm just, as you can see, I have the paper towel over on my left and I'm just blotting it off and putting in little dots of color of the pigment into the part where the petal attaches to the front of the flower. I'm being really careful not to paint 2 petals that are next to each other at the same time. And then once I've added the little area of color, I'm then pulling it up towards the top with some clean water. So I really challenged myself to use, well, at least what I felt comfortable with is the tiniest amount of water that I possibly could. I had just watched a lovely video by Kelly Latavola, and she cautioned about using too much water. But anyway, so I'm just moving forward. This is a number 2, I think, Da Vinci Cosmetop. This is Da Vinci Cosmetop Spin brush, and I think it's partially synthetic and partially sable. I like them because they just fit really well in my hand, and they're springy and they keep their shape really, really well. These are probably my favorite brushes. It took me a while to find the brushes that I liked, but I'm happy with these. And excuse me, it is allergy season. It's always allergy season here. But anyway, so the reason I decided to do no line coloring was because I was recently at a crafty retreat, and I get together and see some of my friends, and Don and Kelly were there, and I had just done a guest spot for W+9, and they both were like, why didn't you no line watercolor that Modern Roses image? And I was like, because I was so nervous about doing it online. I can't do it very well, and all those excuses we make and things that aren't nice that we say to ourselves. So they really encouraged me to come back home and try some no line watercoloring, and so I did. So I stamped this one out. I will get out the Modern Roses and do that again because that really is one of my favorite sets. But as I watch this is when I realized that I'm afraid that I can't see. So sitting here next to me on my right, and even when I was doing this project, was the actual stamp set. And on the top of the stamp set, every stamp set comes like this. Can't think of one that doesn't, is the black outline of the image. So just checking my reference photo again. And you can always lay that black outline thing again on top of your lightly stamped image so that you can see where you're supposed to be going with the paint. So now I'm mixing up a dark for the centers. To mix up a dark, you can just use two colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. I'm using Naphthol red and sap green here to get this it is a dark, deep, purpley, warm, reddish color, if that makes any sense. It reminds me of RV99 if you have Copic markers. So, which would have been my go-to if I had done this with Copics. That's probably what I would have used there. I am going to use a wet-on-wet technique to do these centers because I wanted to disperse the water a little bit. At first I thought I could just blot on each drop, but it just dot of the center, but it just didn't look right. So I'm just going to use wet on wet and get one layer of this color down and then come back later and do some more. So again, the center was also a multi-step process, and in the final part of the center I used some colored pencils. Sorry about that. And so the thing about this, and it's the same thing with Copics, is that you need to work in layers. And I think that when I use no line coloring, I forget that I still need to go in layers, and it's going to look ugly before it looks good. So keep going, don't stop. Give this a try because it really wasn't that hard. I just had to think about what I would have done with my Copics and then apply that to the watercolor paint and try to make those same colors because the Copic colors are in my head really well. Like I think I kind of got close to YG67 with that green, and I only did it with sap green and added a smidge of that Naphthol red because that's so strong. And again, because it's a complement, it will dull that green down. There are two different leaves on this. For the other leaf, I did a bluish green, and I mixed in a little Mayan blue with the sap green just to blue it up a little bit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I did. So I go through and I color all of this. There are acorns, berries. It's a beautifully detailed stamp, and it's a good one because the little images, like the acorn's big enough to no line watercolor. It's a great image to use pencil on, but I'm still not confident about my pencil skills. And you can see I still need to work on getting those centers right. So I have raw sienna out, which I'm going to use to add some depth to the orangish flower. And what was I going to say? I should probably have found a different color, but I went with this one. And the reason I chose to use my luminance pencils were I think they work better on the hot press watercolor than my Prismacolor, and also because that palette of colors is already so neutral that I thought it would work well here. So I have sprayed the IRONWORKS background dry with some Sukaneko sheer shimmer spray, and now I'm splattering that onto the wreath and hitting it with my blow gun. Oh my gosh, it's the 7th time I've said that, but I'm not doing this voiceover again. My heat gun, not my blow dryer. But anyway, I'm just going to put some dry adhesive on this and just lay it straight on. I'm not going to try to pop up that because that just would be too hard because of the fine lines. And then I'm going to put that on top, and I'm putting the pink flower facing upwards and to the right hand side of the card because that's my favorite flower on there. I feel that's my best work, if that makes any sense. And I'm popping it up with some 3M foam tape just to give the card some dimension. And I want this to be a beautiful card because I have a very special friend I'm going to send this to. And I'm going to put a little piece of foam in the center of the wreath. Now I hit this with my blow gun. I did it again. My heat gun, because I just had to spray some more shimmer spray on there. It's ridiculous, and I'm running out, and I've got to order some before I have a panic attack. So yeah, my Tsukaneko sheer shimmer spray is to me like Kelly's Perfect Pearls. Anyway, here's the card, and I hope you had fun just watching a little bit of my process, and I hope you feel encouraged to do some no line coloring and give that a try. If you liked the video, please hit the like button below, the little thumbs up, and I would love it if you subscribed. I've linked to all the products in my blog in the description box below, and if you have any questions, leave me a comment. I do answer all the questions that you ask, and I'm happy to get back to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.